Can you hear me? Okay, I'm going to introduce you, and then I'm going to bring you up on the panel. I won't be able to hear you till you come up. I'm going to wait a few minutes for some people to come in. Alrighty, where are my people? I guess they're on CP time. Hey, Lily, thank you for coming through. Well, now I got one person. I'm just going to go ahead and get started. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Let's Talk One-on-One with Uncle David. Tonight, I have a very, very special guest. She is a DC area radio icon. She's a momager. She's a health advocate, a human, an activist for the people. But tonight, she will be sharing her story, the journey for her. She's a transplant survivor, and she will be sharing that story with us. I am truly honored to have her. And without further ado, I bring to you the incomparable Olivia Fox.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm really good. I'm really good. You can hear me okay?
Yes. Okay. Yes, we can hear you, can see you. Thank you so much for joining me and giving me this opportunity to speak with you and have you on. I'm truly honored and humbled. So thank you very much.
I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to be here to, share my story and to hopefully encourage, others to be a little bit more conscious about their health and maybe learn a few things or two about kidney disease and everything that I've been through, and hopefully maybe keep someone else from having to go through what I've been through. So
yes. Yeah. Let's go ahead and get started. After your first stint on dialysis, I know when you first got sick, I'm sure that was scary.
It was. I tend to think when I tell my story that because I was African American, because I had a history of hypertension on both sides of my family, like a lot of African Americans, I tend to think that the tests that were needed to find out if there was something wrong with my kidneys didn't happen for almost a decade. I had hypertension. I had what they consider protein spillage within your urine, which is kind of a technical term for when your kidney filters that are on your kidneys aren't filtering the waste properly. And so I went from about 10 years with hypertension and just being treated for that until finally in 1995, I believe I was in Boston. And a wonderful doctor there, she said, you know what, I'm going to run some routine tests on your kidney function. And she did, and she discovered that there were some abnormalities and, you know, things weren't good. I had a lot of facial swelling. I had a lot of swelling around my ankles, my fingers, really bad cystic acne. And so during that time, I ended up leaving from Boston and moved to Washington, D.C. to work in radio. And that's when I found a nephrologist who ended up doing a biopsy on my kidney and found out that I had this particular disease. It's called FSG. It's a long, drawn out word, but in short, it's basically scar tissue buildup on the filtering systems of both of my kidneys. And so he told me that he was going to treat me very aggressively, but eventually at some point I would probably need a kidney transplant. A lot of people are familiar with like Alonzo Mourning.
Yes.
Remember him from Miami?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Had the same disease that I have. And
okay.
So I did very well. There are some folks that I know that went into kidney failure right away, but I ended up doing very well for about 10 years until 2007 is when I got sick.
Okay.
And ended up having to be on dialysis. Yeah, it was
Wow.
It was really scary.
I'm sure that it was. I know my dad was on dialysis, my mother-in-law, my father-in-law. So I kind of got to see the process of what they actually go through. And I'm like, wow, it's especially from the beginning when they first start with the little thing and the little shunt in your chest. And it's like, and then they got this big needle, and once they move it to the arm, oh, there's two.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the stent that you're talking about is a temporary stent, and they usually put it in your chest.
Right.
And I did have one, but once it was quite clear, because I was on dialysis for a year, and then my function came back, which is
okay,
for a year, and then I ended up going back on dialysis. But once it was clear that my kidneys were done, I went and had a fistula, is what they call it, in my arm. It's basically where they take two arteries and put them together where it's a main opening or whatever to access where the needles go in. And that's where they put the 16 gauge needles in. They take all your blood out and they put it in a machine, cleans it up and puts it all back in. And usually the process can be anywhere from 3 to 5 hours, depending on your weight and what they're trying to do. But my treatments were 4 hours, 3 days a week, every week for 4 years. No lifting, no stopping, no, oh, I can't make it, there's a snowstorm, or I'm going out of town. It's like you live life or death.
Yeah, I've talked to several people that get dialysis, and they talk about how you can't miss it. It's like if you miss it. Now, I've talked to some people, they miss a day, and they're like, I'm going to skip this day, but I'm going to make it up. And I'm like, that's not making sense to me. But okay, you tell me that you need it, it's a necessity, but yet I understand that things happen, but if you miss a day, that could be the day that, so I never understood that, but they tend to do it. And
I explain to people, mindset is everything when you're going through this process. First of all, to be told that a major organ in your body is no longer working is a mind blower. I mean, to think, oh my God, I might die. Okay, so you have the initial shock, and then you have this whole situation that's explained to you rather quickly, because it's not a lot of time between kidney failure and being placed on dialysis. It's like you have kidney failure, you're going to dialysis. It's like immediate. Okay. So you don't have a lot of time to really digest what's going on. You just want to live. I mean, that was my mindset. And then there was a moment, where I was, doing a lot of stuff, and I was just like, you know what, trying to be cute, controlling the situation, being the
Mhm.
Scorpio woman that I am.
Right.
I was like, I got cute one Monday and was like, I'm not going. I don't feel like it. You know, one of those kind of things. And
Okay.
the nurses were like, and I was like, well, y'all can't make me. I'll be there on Wednesday. When I tell you, when Tuesday afternoon came, I was
Mhm.
so down and so like tired and exhausted. I had so many toxins because that's really what happens. You end up
Toxins.
building up so many toxins in your body that you basically poison from the inside out if you don't go.
Okay.
I guess that's one way of kind of describing it. Yeah.
Now, when you went through it, I know you said you went through it the first time, and then you were on dialysis for a little while, and then your kidney functions returned. What was that like? What was your thinking? Were you thinking that, okay, maybe the storm is over, maybe it's not just going to be as bad as they said it's going to be? I'm free and clear, and I can just be me.
Well, the way it was explained to me, I will never forget. I was in Miami in 2007 covering the Super Bowl, and my daughter and my ex-husband both got sick. They had like flu, and so I got it, and I just thought, well, I have the flu. But it
Right.
kept getting progressively worse, where I ended up going to the emergency room and I nearly died. I got what they call when you septic. I got
Septic.
the infection in my bloodstream, and by the grace of God, I made it through. But because of the infection, it shut my kidneys down. So the doctors weren't really sure if it was something that was from the infection that I had, or if
Mhm.
it was my disease that had progressed to failure. So I was so sick that when I went on dialysis, I was just like, maybe for the first 2 or 3 weeks, I don't even really remember, because that's how sick I was.
Okay.
And then when I moved up back to DC, I ended up going, and my numbers started improving. So the doctor was like, I think you can stand on your own, but we don't know what's going to happen.
Okay.
And so they just monitored me closely, and then I start feeling tired and retaining a lot of water. And finally, he was just like, I've got to put you back on. And I was devastated. I was really devastated because I thought, I was going to be okay. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah. It's like, okay, I made it through this. It's like you've been through a fire and you've run out, you're out, and
Right.
you're good and everything's fine. And you remember, I got to go back. And it's
Yeah.
like, really?
It's devastating. And at the time, I had a very young child. My daughter, I think, was like 4, maybe 5 when I first went on dialysis. And so we're talking about a complete change of lifestyle. I had to get somebody to take care of. I was going through a divorce. I had moved. And I had this little person that was looking at me like, what's wrong, Mommy? Are you going to die? So I'm trying to deal with her, trying to get her mind right, while
And
I'm
plus keep yours right.
with this false face trying to be strong for her, and inside I'm crumbling, I'm dying, and all this time while still fighting to live. I mean,
I'm sure.
it was something.
Now, my mother-in-law, she got what they call peritoneal
Yes.
dialysis. Was that ever an option? Because I think that's a little less. It was a little less strenuous for her because she was getting the regular dialysis, but then it was just draining. I mean, it was just, you could see the difference. She'd go in and she'd be like, she's okay, but when she get out, it's like, oh.
Exhausted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what they did was they put the little thing in her stomach, and my wife and I, we were charged with making sure that it stayed clean.
Right.
Changing the bag. She had to do it every night.
Nice.
And now I know that sometimes you have the habit of, you say, well, okay, I'm getting dialysis, I can sneak and eat a little bit more but then they say that once you go into dialysis, after you've snuck and ate more than you should have, it's a little harder on the body.
It is. People don't realize that the kidneys have a major impact on practically every system in your body: your lungs, your heart, your pancreas. I mean, it's a very, very important 2 organs, but you can't live with just one. I did want to make sure I said that.
Okay.
But yeah, I did have the option of doing that, but I think a lot of it was still, part of it was vainness, because I didn't want the tube in my stomach
Right.
tripping. And the other part was just fear, because I was like, what if I'm a crazy sleeper? Like you
Okay.
start off in one position, end up
Somewhere else.
morning, all the blankets and stuff is on the floor. So I was like tripping. I was like, what if when I'm asleep, the tube comes out? I was tripping on the what ifs. So
Yeah.
strictly out of fear, I didn't do it. But, you know, it is an option. You have to do it, I believe, every day, I think.
Yes, you do.
While you
Yeah.
sleep for 8 hours.
Yeah.
And a lot of people prefer it because they feel like they have a little bit more control. I think people, when you go into a dialysis unit, you really feel like, especially for a lot of the men who go on dialysis, you kind of like lose control. Like you feel like you don't have control of your life because you're tied to that machine. You know what I'm saying? And so for some people, it makes them feel like they have a little bit more control of their life and their schedule. But for me, my mindset was, I'm going to this unit to get my blood clean. That's what my daughter would tell people. I'm going to get on this machine to get my blood clean. And when I come out, I'm good. And so that carried me for 4 years. I'm not going to say that it was always easy because God knows it wasn't.
I'm sure it wasn't. I'm sure it wasn't because, like I said,
another thing that was really, and it still messes with me to this day, to go where you, I went Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I think I was on first shift. They have first shift, second shift, and last shift. A lot of people who still work, they go to the early shift. So they'll be on at like 5, get off at 9, they can go to work, and then they're good. Some people will go to work and then come after they work. But the mental part was coming back, knowing where your people are in the unit on your shift, because you really become like family because you see these people 3 days a week. But to come back and see a chair open,
wondering
find out
they didn't
that
make
person has passed.
Yeah,
that has happened. I think the 4 years that I was there, maybe 5 or 6 people.
Yeah, because I drove a van taking people back and forth to dialysis, and in a year, I think I worked for him for about a year and a half. Which 2 people that, I mean, they rode the van every Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Yeah.
I picked them up 5 o'clock in the morning and took them to dialysis. And then one guy, he didn't show up, and I'm like, okay, I arrived past the house, and then my boss finally told me what happened. And then there was another lady before the pandemic actually set in. I was, picking her up every morning. She'd get in the van. She was something else. She was so much fun.
People usually are. The people
Yeah,
are
and you get to know these people, and they talk, and you deal with them, and then you ride past the house to pick up, and her husband finally came out and said, she's in the hospital, and then I didn't see her, and then I looked at my list, and she wasn't on the list anymore, and I was talking to the guy that I usually pick up first before we go get her, and I was like, hey, do you know what happened? He's like, yeah, she passed away, and I'm like, you're kidding. So yeah, it strikes for you in the unit, but it also had an effect on me as a person that is taking these people to dialysis and listening to their stories. And
it's I had a couple of times where I just it was crushing. But on the flip side, I've heard 3 or 4 people that were in my unit that, like myself, ended up getting transplants. So and they've gone on about their business and living their lives, and but it is it's difficult. It's really, it's hard on your body, but it's really, really a mental thing. It's a mental thing. It really is, which I guess would be the same for any chronic illness that you're going through.
Okay, we got a couple of questions. Let me scroll through here. Okay, here we go. Can kidney failure or disease happen also from what you eat and your weight?
What was that now?
Can kidney failure or disease happen also from what you eat and your weight?
Well, I will tell you this, and I jotted this down because I wanted to make sure that I mentioned this. African Americans make up about 13% of the population, but 35% of people with kidney failure are our people. And a lot of that has to do with hypertension and diabetes, 2 of the main causes of kidney failure. So I would say, yes, I'm not a doctor, but it only logically makes sense that if you're eating all these things You're not exercising. You're carrying a lot of weight. You end up running your blood pressure up. You're not controlling your blood pressure. You're not going to the doctor. You're not taking your medication. The same thing with diabetes. Eventually, it can take a toll on your kidneys, which is why there's so many of us in these dialysis units because of hypertension and diabetes. My situation a little different. I had a particular disease. But, you know, a lot of people are in these units because of uncontrolled hypertension, uncontrolled diabetes, and they end up, what they say in some of the units, they end up blowing the kidneys out. And so, and unfortunately, you know, we don't donate. You know, a lot of African Americans tend not to. I'm going to heaven with all my organs.
Yeah, they're not. I don't want them to have mine. I'm not going to give it. I mean, my whole thing is, what are you going to do with it when you're gone? You know, that's why I was reading the other day, and there was a research. They did a survey, and 95% of the people agreed with being an organ donor. They supported it,
right?
But only 58% of them are actually registered. Now, I made sure, you know, people ask me, are you registered donor? Yes. And people, the first thing I hear is, well, I'm not registered because they're going to be trying to kill me because they're going to be trying to harvest my.
I mean, my God, I've heard that I've heard that so many times. And it's understandable considering, you know, the history of our people dealing with the medical profession, things that we've gone through. But I think you really, until you're in that situation, you don't understand how dire it can be for people. I have like two very close stories of my own. My nephew, Tyson, he had a kidney and kidney and liver transplant about 5, maybe 7 years ago. And just recently, like maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, he ended up getting another kidney. He needed another kidney, so he had a kidney transplant. Unfortunately, a young man, 21 years old, lost his life due to some type of accident, and his parents knew that he wanted to be an organ donor. So my nephew ended up getting his kidney. My 2-year-old grandniece, Sky, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful Sky. She was in a car accident, and her mother saw beyond her grief and ended up donating all of her organs, and she saved so many lives. So even though it was tragic and traumatic that we lost our beautiful, beautiful Sky, she ended up saving so many people's lives and other children as well. So, you know, until you're actually in that situation, you know, you have to really, really understand how important organ donation is, because I'm here because my best friend ended up going and getting tested, and he didn't even tell me, and it turned out that he was a perfect match.
Now,
and
what
he
was
gave me
that
one
like?
of his kidneys.
What was that like when you actually found out that this was going to happen? Did he call you, or did the doctor call you, or?
I was actually driving. I will never ever forget. I will never forget. I was driving my car, and he called me. He lives in Brooklyn, and he was just like, "Hey, what's going on?" It's just like, you know, just driving. And he was like, "I wanted to tell you something." And I'm like, "What's up?" And he was like, "I have your kidney." And I was like, "What?" You know, like, you know, boy, stop playing with me. And he was like, "I have your kidney." He goes, "I went and I got tested." And he goes, "We are a perfect match." He goes, "I am going to give you one of my kidneys."
Wow.
And when I tell you, you know, I ain't gonna start crying.
It's okay. But if you do, it's okay. It is understandable.
I pulled my car over and I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. And, you know, because I was scared, I was excited, but I was scared because I was like, Lord, you know, I was scared. And I was trying to put it off. And the doctors were like, "You're healthy?" He goes, "And let me explain to you how transplants work." He goes, "Nobody can be sick, you or the donor. You can't have a flu, you can't have a fever, you can't have anything wrong with you when you go into this type of operation. One, the receiver like myself, they lower your immune system down to practically nothing, because when you receive the kidney, you don't want your immune system to reject it. So you have to be healthy. And the same thing with him. And so instead of putting it off, I was trying to put it off till summer, right? I'm like, let me wait until my daughter get out of school. But the doctor was like, come on. And we ended up going on April 6th, Easter weekend of 2012. And I've been living ever since.
All right.
And he's been living. He unfortunately caught COVID in March, which was a battle that he had to fight, that he's still fighting. But by the grace of God, our surgery went great. I didn't have any issues. We walked the hallways together less than 24 hours of the transplant.
Okay. Now with that, you still taking medication for as far as like after the transplant to keep it from being rejected?
I am they call it immunosuppressant drugs, which basically is medication that you have to take for the rest of your life. And it kind of lowers your immune system to keep your body from rejecting the organ. Now, of course, along with that, when you're walking around with an immune system that doesn't work as well as everyone else's, you're more susceptible to infection, to viruses, cancer, so that it's kind of a, like, okay, I've got this new kidney, but here I am out here, just really out here.
Yes, 22.
And sometimes it can cause issues. Last winter, December, I was in the hospital for over a week. I had got the flu B, and I ended up getting like a parasite. So I was in the hospital for a week. And then I swear 2 weeks after that, I ended up getting the flu A. And so it was horrible. I didn't get my flu shot, which is what happened, which is the reason why I was so out there. And I was in New York at the Macy's Day Parade. And so now with COVID, I'm like, paranoid, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm walking around with 2 masks on.
Oh yeah, I follow you on Instagram, so I see you when you're out and about, and you're like, I mean, it's like, woo, like, okay, you're not doing this.
I don't play. And it's hard because I have a 17-year-old daughter now.
Yes.
Of course, she's been out of school, but she's going back. Yeah, and she's a senior.
Yeah.
And so, part of me is like, I feel horrible because, she has to be extra careful, because if she gets it, then I can get it.
Right.
But, she's a young person with a strong immune system. So it's been quite a challenge, like for everyone else with COVID. We've both have been tested twice. One time she got in a situation where she was at her job and somebody had it. So she had to get tested, and I ended up getting tested. Okay. And then recently, about a month ago, I kept running a fever. I was freaking out.
Okay.
And we ended up both getting tested, but we were both negative too. But it's been hard. And now, the question with getting the shot, I'm like kind of on the fence. And so next month, I go back to my doctor. I go every 6 months, and I find out if, what's the deal. They haven't had enough trials with people like myself who are immune compromised, who are transplant patients in the studies, to say yay or nay.
Yay or nay. Okay.
So I'm hoping for the best, but prepared for the worst. And I'm always going to I was wearing my mask before March. I was wearing my mask back in 2020, January. I don't be playing with these people, because, people are nasty.
Yeah, they are. They are. My wife and I went to the store. We just got back from Florida. And so we were in the store, and my wife, she's on it. So we're walking, and the guy sneezes. And I'm looking for some shoes, and I'm like, well, my shoes are down at that end where she's like, nope. We're going to find some shoes somewhere else. We're getting out of here right now. Because before he sneezed, there was another lady that coughed, and she was like, okay, all right, she coughed in the mask. All right, I'll give her a break. So we're walking, and the dude sneezed, and she was like, let's go. I'm like, but then I was like, you know what? Never mind.
And y'all were in Florida?
Yes.
Yeah, see.
Yeah, so I mean, they're like, we didn't
they
go
down
anywhere.
In Florida wilding like COVID who?
I know. I'm like, what are y'all doing? And they go in the stores, and the lady says, ma'am, you need to put on a mask. we don't know what she said to the young lady, but whatever she said, she just kept walking and didn't put on the mask. And I was like, okay.
Oh, they
Then I
real
go on to
smart.
7-Eleven, and the lady's she's got the mask, but it's down here. Now they had the partition, so I'm like, okay. She has a little note on the mask that says "worn by force," and I'm like, okay, but
don't even get me started on these people about these masks. My liberties and I can't.
yeah.
I don't even. I'm like, you know what? I'm not okay. That's you. Just stay away from me. Don't come near me. I don't be playing. I'm like, if it's not at the grocery store, drugstore, or a couple of, I'm not going out. I'm not doing
Now, I do have another question. What dietary constraints do you now have? Because some foods exacerbate kidney problems. It'll help others to know what to look out for.
That's true. When I was on dialysis, two of the main things that can really be killers for people that are on dialysis is potassium and phosphorus. So anything that has those two things in them can be deadly for those who are on dialysis. And it's because it has to do with the heart. So when I was on dialysis, I couldn't eat bananas and black-eyed peas and collard greens. That killed me. That was killing me. New Year's Day, I couldn't have no black-eyed peas. What? Oranges, orange juice. So anything with phosphorus or potassium are really, really hands off for people that are on dialysis. If you're the person who's on dialysis who makes no urine, a lot of people when they go on dialysis, they don't make urine anymore. You have to really be careful on how much you drink, because of course you can't get rid of it until you go to dialysis when they pull it off of you through the blood. So if you drink too much and you can't get it off, where does it go? It ends up swelling you up and you end up getting fluid on the lungs, which again can be deadly for dialysis patients. But now that I'm been off and have my transplant, I don't have any restrictions, but I have found, and it's really weird, and I blame it on my donor, because I never ate dessert before I had my transplant. And he loves desserts, and I swear, ever since that transplant, I got to have me some dessert. I'm not even a dessert person,
right?
But yeah, so but I'm a vegetarian. I don't eat meat, and that's just by choice. But I don't really have any restrictions. The only thing I could really probably think is what they tell you is no alcohol or very little alcohol because of obvious reasons. But I was a big drinker prior to getting diagnosed, but now it's like I may have one beer or a glass of wine, and I'm just like, ugh, I'm full. So I don't have any restrictions now, but I think it varies from person to person because some people have other conditions like hypertension. Some people, will develop diabetes. My nephew, who just had his transplant, he's dealing with sugar. He's kind of had to adjust his diet now to get him back where he needs to be. But for myself now.
Okay. Yeah, because I know for me, I suffer from hypertension. I do take my medications now. There was a time when I would go to the doctor and my doctor's like, man, you're a dead man walking, because my pressure would be up. And, I kind of think I took it for granted. Then I had a heart attack back in 2010. And I'm like, okay, you know what? Maybe you might want to rethink what you're doing here. And so, yeah, I take my medicines now. I'm still working on that food thing. But that's a work in progress. We also have a friend that is a transplant survivor. She was a young girl, and her kidneys. She was on dialysis. I think how long? About 6 years, and she was on the list. But every time it would come up, something would happen. So this particular time, about maybe 3 or 4, 5, 6 months ago, they called her and said, "Hey, we've got 2 kidneys for you," from a 3-year-old that passed away. And so, she was lucky enough to get the transplant. Now she's, dialysis free, and she's back to being her crazy self. And, but to those that are not donors, what do you say to them? Those that are, because you have those that they're not going to change their mind. They're just not. And they're trying to lessen the gap, close the gap from the 95 and the 58. So what do you say to those 37%? What do you say to them? And probably 15% of them are on the fence. So you may have a chance to talk them, over it. What did you say?
You mean to those who absolutely will not donate?
No, because sometimes the people have made their mind up, they're not going to do it, then they're not going to do it. But the people that are maybe on the fence, that are not sure, maybe I want to, but I'm scared, is it really that important? Those are the people that I want you to talk to.
I will tell you this. I'm here because of organ donation. And not to say that I may not be here, but my life is 100% better because somebody decided to give one of their kidneys to me. It is a personal decision. It's scary. I get it. But they're doing kidney transplants now like dentists are pulling wisdom teeth. And I'm not even exaggerating. I mean, they really are. I mean, if it had been, 30, 40 years ago, I'd be like, but I mean, it's so common now for transplants, specifically kidney transplants. And you only need one kidney to live. A lot of people don't know your kidneys are in your back. Mm-hmm. You have two. I have three. There are some people that have four, but only one is working for my body. You can live with one kidney. Some people don't want to donate because of religion. I get it. I know a good friend of mine who has passed. He was a Jehovah's Witness, and he knew that once his kidneys failed, he was going to be on dialysis for the rest of his life because he knew, due to his, religious beliefs, that he wasn't going to take an organ from someone else. So I get that. But if you are in a situation, God forbid, that something happens to you and you end up passing, but there's a chance that somebody else can live, wouldn't you want to give somebody a second chance? People talk about gifts, oh, girl, yes, I'm going to give. I got me a gift. I got me a car. And, oh, I got me this. And there is no gift, no amount of money, no car, no gift that can top the gift of life. There's true. No better gift as a human being that you can give to another person than an ability to allow them to continue to live. I mean, my best friend who decided to give me one of his kidneys, I'm always like, Lord, how am I going to make this up? You gave me a kidney, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, forever, whatever you need, and he's like, no, he goes, I wanted to give you a kidney because I knew that you are a mother, you have a daughter, you're a niece, a daughter to your mom, you're the only girl, you're the youngest in your family. He goes, I wanted to give my kidney because I wanted my friend to live. So when you think of it in those kinds of, in that frame, mm-hmm. It can really put something on your mind. Now, I get, some people are like, well, they may not work hard enough to save my life. I understand. But, most people that end up giving that are living donors, it's mm-hmm. they make a choice. Like, I'm going to give one of my kidneys or I'm going to give a piece of my liver. The liver is the only organ in the body that can regenerate. So you can actually give a piece of your liver to someone that way. But, sometimes if, God forbid, you're in an accident and you're on life support, which was the case for my beautiful grandniece, the family decided, our baby is gone, but she will live on. And her mother decided to donate all of her organs to different people. She saved so many lives. So it was really a way for our family to heal, knowing that our baby would live on through all these other people.
That part right there. Now there was somebody said, oh, she said she didn't know that you could have three. Now they don't, so they didn't remove the
They
non-functional.
didn't. They didn't. It's crazy
They
because
just
when I first got
plugged it in.
diagnosed and I was in Florida, the
Mm-hmm.
doctors down there wanted to take my kidneys, or sometimes they'll put alcohol in the kidneys to kind of kill the kidneys and shrivel them up to
Uh-huh.
transplant the new ones. Every hospital's different. I don't
Okay.
know why, but I knew I wasn't going to be going through two surgeries. I knew that.
Right.
So when I
Okay.
moved up to Maryland, the doctors were like, nah, we'll just basically do some rewiring and we'll put your
Get in there.
kidney, your transplanted kidney. My transplanted kidney's right here in the front on the right side. I don't know if you
Okay.
can see, but it's like right here.
Okay.
Right there. So
Wow.
no more roller coaster riding for me. But but yeah, So I'm not sure, but I do believe my nephew has his two native, his transplant, and I think they put his other one on the other side. His mother will hit me up and let me know, but it's possible that he has four, but I know for certain he has three because he still has his two natives. But yes, I have three kidneys.
So, and I know a young lady that she's a living donor, and I wanted to get her on, but she is one of those people that, first of all, she's camera shy, and she's one of those people that does for people and does so much that she very rarely wants to be patted on the back. It's like, I'm going to do this, and I'm doing it because this is who I am. She's not one of those people that they do it and they got to let everybody know that they did it, because
Right,
it feeds their ego. So
right,
that's one of the reasons why I can't get her on. She doesn't. She's just, and she is not just the kidney, but she's just a giver.
right.
And so, I want to get her on, and maybe one day I'll be able to twist her arm and get her to come on, to share the other side of the donor process, the person that is giving. Now, I've talked to one that has received, so I want to get a chance to talk to someone who has given a kidney. So
Right.
maybe I'll be
I
able to.
wish I had known because I would have had my donor on. He speaks to people and goes to different places and talks about his experience. He not only gave his kidney to me, but my daughter's godfather ended up
Mhm.
giving one of his kidneys to his sister,
Wow.
to save her life. But it's they ended up doing it because they wanted to save their family or friends' lives. They ended up leaving. My donor left the hospital 2 days prior to me. I probably would have left sooner, but I ended up having some issues, bleeding issues, which was just something that's within me. I've always been a person who has issues with clotting, but
Okay.
it didn't cause me any major issues. But usually, when you go and decide, okay, I want to be a living donor, or someone that you want to donate to, you end up having to take a series of tests. And basically, they're checking you from head to toe to make sure you don't have any issues. For
Okay.
myself, I can speak for myself. I ended up having to have, of course, a mammogram. I had to end up having my OBGYN yearly check. I had to have stress tests on my heart. They did a full scan of my body, make sure I didn't have any cancer. I went to a dermatologist to check for any kind of skin cancer. All my blood work, all STD tests, everything. They check you from head to toe. I even went to a psychiatrist because it's
Wow.
very important. Yeah, it's very important to know that if you get this gift of life, are you going to do what you're supposed to do? Meaning,
Okay.
are you going to take your medicine? Are you going to be compliant? Are you going to go to your doctor's visits? Because it is a gift. So they don't want to be in a situation where they're giving an organ to someone and then you end up going off on the deep end thinking, I don't need to take this medicine no more. And then the kidney fails, and then there you go. So they
No.
literally check you from head to toe, and they do the same thing pretty much for the donor as well.
Oh, okay. Now, I do have a young lady. She says a friend of hers had too much potassium, and the doctor thought that he was having a heart attack. So they
Mm,
almost treated him for the wrong thing. So I know for me, when I had my heart attack, they were putting potassium in my hand. I mean, putting potassium in me, and they put it in my hand. And that thing, I was laying there, and oh my God, how Fred Sanford did the thing. when his hand gets to when we having the big one.
Right, the big one.
Yeah.
I'm coming to see you, Elizabeth.
Yeah, that's how my hand was. And I'm like, and the nurse comes running in because I'm ringing the bell, and hollering and screaming. And she said that's part of the process, honey. So I'm like,
so
I
wait a
gotta do
minute.
this.
So when you had your heart attack, they gave you potassium?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, this was after they put the stent in. They said that my potassium was low. So they
Yeah,
had
I'm not real sure about that, but I know when I was on dialysis, those were the two biggies that they were always concerned about. You know, when they did your blood work every week, and they'd be like, "Hey, Olivia, your potassium is really high. What are you eating?" I'm like, "I had me some black eyed peas. I had me some bananas. I had me some oranges." You know what I'm saying? They'd be like, "You gotta, be careful with that, because your body's not able to filter all of that out. It's just stuck in your body till you come to dialysis and get it pulled off." So, everybody is different. But let me just say this, and I wanted to make sure that I made this point. It's so unfortunate, and it's not just a Black people thing. I think it's just a human thing that we will invest so much time and energy to look into cars. Like if you're going to buy a car, we will do all the research in the world about a car. Ladies, we will do all the research in the world about hair and, what kind of stuff you're going to put in your hair and all the research about your nails. And, and you go to buy a house, you want to make sure you got an inspection because you want to make everything is right about your house. But the very thing that houses your soul, a lot of people don't even know anything about it. Most people don't even know where their kidneys are. They're like, "Oh, my kidney, child."
That ain't your kidney.
Okay?
That's not your kidney. You got something else going on.
people they just don't know. And usually we don't want to know anything about it until it don't work. And then you're trying to find out about everything.
When something starts to hurt, then you be like, okay. And then even still then
you're trying to figure out, well, what am I doing? When in reality, you can take an active role in your health before something traumatic happens. You can, it's hard to follow a diet. I'll be the first one to say it. It's hard to eat like you got some sense. It's hard to watch the sodium the salt that you're putting on your food. It's hard to get out here and exercise, especially now when you're dealing with COVID. But it's important to take care of your body because, like my mother says, if your body goes down, where are you going to live? It's not like you can go and be like, all right, I'm going to go and trade this joint in and get me a new one. You know what I'm saying?
only so many things can be replaced. So,
you can't trade. You can't just trade the whole body in,
it's like,
you got to take care of yourself. It's so important, and take an active role. And I will tell you that, and I've heard this from more African-American women than a little bit, but they'll get into these doctors' offices, and some of these doctors are arrogant out here. And some of them,
I've run across quite a few.
Right?
I used to work at a hospital,
are arrogant. Some of them, unfortunately, we deal with situations where, you may have a doctor or a physician, a group of doctors that are treating you based on your background, like what happened to me. Like, oh, well, her mother's family had heart attacks and strokes, and her daddy's people had heart attacks and strokes. And then, so you just must have hypertension running your family. Instead of taking the active role of saying, okay, wait a minute, this girl is young, she works out, she eats like she got some sense. She shouldn't just be having hypertension this high. Let's go the extra mile and check and see what's going on. Maybe her kidneys are not working. You know what I mean? So you have to be educated about yourself and take an active role in your own care. And if you go to a doctor that you feel in some kind of way about it, go get another doctor. And a lot of people, they get stuck in their ways. Well, I've had this doctor for 20 years and they so nice, but you still are sick or you're still having these ongoing issues. Go see somebody else.
Yeah, because I had to do that. Yeah, I had to do that. I had to switch my doctor. And I'm like, because my doctor, he was good, but I needed to go somewhere else. And stuff was working, but I wanted to get another
opinion.
Yeah. And so now the doctor that I have now, we have a good rapport. He checks on me, he sends me emails, and he's checking on me, make sure I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And he's like, Mr. Ricks, I haven't heard from you in quite a while. What's going on? And
That's a good doctor. And that's what they're supposed to do. But we've gotten into with this healthcare system that we have, and a lot of these doctors are up against the wall as well. Their livelihood has been affected and impacted as well in this country with our healthcare system. But a doctor is supposed to treat you and try to get you better instead of prolonging the symptoms. And we live in that type of culture where a lot of these doctors out here are treating the symptoms instead of trying to do the extra work to find out why you're having these symptoms. And so if you're the kind of person that just goes along to get along, and you're not taking an active role and saying, well, look, wait a minute now, okay, so if that's not that, then why don't we do this? Or why are you giving me this medicine? I don't tell you how many times those people will just get a prescription and just start popping pills, and they don't even know what they're taking. Greatest investment I ever made, and it didn't even cost a lot. I think I got it at like Rite Aid or CVS. It's like a little pill book. It's called the pill book, actually.
Okay.
And it's got, if anybody out there, if you're taking pharmaceutical drugs, I highly recommend you go get this little book. It's called the pill book.
I need to go get one.
You can go on Amazon, you can get it in drugstore. Okay. But it shows you the picture of the pill. It explains to you what the pill does, what it is. It gives you the side effects, and it tells you about, different interactions that you're not supposed to take this with this. Educate yourself about what you're putting in your mouth to go into your body, because a lot of people don't. And then when something happens, then you want to be like, oh, well, they didn't, their doctor didn't do. Well, what did you do?
Okay.
Educate yourself about what you're taking. So you really have to take an active role in your own health care.
Okay. Now that you're doing much better, what's to come? Public speaking, more radio, talk shows?
This is real talk. This is real talk. My life has felt like I've been on autopilot for like the last 10 years. I've been raising my kid. Kind of, felt like I've done radio to the utmost. You know what I mean? I ain't saying I would turn down a job, but I to do it is not what it used to be. I feel like I kind of aged out of radio because I'm 55. But, I have been in deep thought and deep prayer, trying to find a way as to where my life is going in the second half. My daughter leaves for college next year, hopefully. And so I'm like, what's next for me?
Okay.
And, every day I give it thought. And then when you hit me up about this interview, it's just been on my heart. Like, this is something that I went through. A lot of times when people go through trauma, they don't want to rehash it. They just want to move forward. They don't want to talk about it. Right. It was so traumatic. They just want to move. I got through it and I'm going through it. But for me, I feel very differently about it. I feel like I went through this test. I've got this incredible testimonial, and I have a voice, and I have the ability to talk to people where they can understand. It's easy, for doctors to spit out all these big words, but if you can't break it down into terms where people can understand it, the message gets lost. I'm feeling like, this is my passion now. It's easy for me to speak about, and I want to help people. You get to a certain point in your life, where you get all the things that you want, you buy all the stuff, you know what I'm saying? You have a family, and then you get to a point like, well, what's next for me? And for me, I feel like it's been on me, and it's probably, kind of like, I feel like I'm being guided, but that's probably my future. Just going around, sharing my testimonial, and hopefully trying to save some lives. And if I can monetize that, where I can make a living in doing that, then that's probably where I'm going. Okay.
Now, before I let you get out of here, I got to give you a little hard time. I understand that you are one of those, your team is them, I don't even want to say their name on my channel.
You
You know,
know,
those are your people,
football up
and
here.
I understand, and it's okay. I still, you know, you're still my girl. It's all
Hey,
right, because I understand that nobody's perfect, and it's all right. You
here
know,
you go. I'm
but
honest
also
with you.
we
I'm
have
honest with you.
a friend in common, Mr. Derek Lamar.
Who?
Derek Lamar.
Cowboy fan?
No, I'm just saying. No, he does voiceovers and stuff like that. He took a picture with you, and
Yes,
so
Talent WLVS, of course.
yes. So I'm scrolling through Facebook, and I see this picture, and I'm like, okay, wait a minute. How does he get a picture with her? I said, you know what? I'm gonna one up him. So the next time I talk to him, I'm gonna say, look, boss, I got a full interview. So you can have your little picture, and that's okay. That's all right. I got a whole interview with Miss Olivia Fox. So, and also, where can people find you? Other than, I know I got you on Instagram, I got that in the description, but I know you're all over the place. So if you could just give them, you know, so that they can
You can
follow
find me on
you.
Instagram at Olivia Fox Radio. I got thrown off of Twitter 4 years ago. You know, it's funny how time flies, right? But I got thrown off of Twitter back October 2017. It came up on something on my phone, which I can't believe. I'm like, I've been off Twitter for 4 years. Got
Wow.
thrown off of Twitter for going back and forth with a Trump supporter. That's a whole nother
Oh,
story. So
okay,
I
yeah,
ain't on Twitter no more.
okay.
But
Well, guess what?
Instagram and Facebook
Neither is
is where you
he.
can find
So
me.
yeah,
Isn't that
neither is
crazy?
he. So it worked out. That's how that worked out.
Didn't it? Didn't it? Look at God. But yeah, so Instagram, Olivia Fox Radio, and then of course on Facebook. But I'm working on some things. I'm hoping, you know, you keep hearing people saying, you know, don't let this time or that we're on this lockdown, let this time go by without, you know, doing something with your time, or, you know, creating
Mhm.
something, or, you know, trying to accomplish something. And I've always said to folk, you know, you shouldn't judge people on what they do during a quarantine time or during a pandemic, because, you know, this whole thing has been absolutely crazy. I mean, it's been crazy. And so if you haven't created something, or if you haven't turned your life, or, you know, started a business, don't even take it personal, because I know I haven't. I've just been trying to live. Look, I'm just
Okay,
trying to live. But
okay.
I'm hoping that, you know, I will be guided to where I'm supposed to be, and wherever I am, that's
Well,
where
I
I'll
would
be.
definitely be following you. And
That's where I'll be. Yeah,
if you can get a chance, if you can shoot me your donor's information on
I
Instagram,
will.
and maybe I can get him on and have somebody from the other side, and you know, let him share his story as well. But I want to thank you so much. I am truly honored and humbled that you decided to give me a shot. And so
Absolutely.
I thank you so much. And I hope that, you know, this helps somebody. You know, my goal every day is to help someone in a positive, if it's just one person, to
Right.
change that direction positively. So if this show has done that for any one person, then I'm good, because maybe they'll take that information and pass it on to somebody else. So
Amen.
again,
I feel the same way. For me right now, I'm like, I try to get one thing accomplished, at least
mhm,
one thing. I try to do something new at least once a week, something that
okay,
I've never. You know, today I drank some coffee. I drink a certain type of coffee, but yesterday I was in Target and I said, you know what? I'm gonna try this coffee. And let me tell you, I've been lit all day off this new coffee. Like, when I tell you, I'm like, oh, I done got a lot of stuff done today, you know. Like, this coffee is the bomb. So I encourage everybody to try to do something new. But also, like you said, you know, anytime I can get an opportunity where I can actually talk about this and you know, share my story, and then hopefully encourage other people to really consider being an organ donor. It's not enough just to check the box on your driver's license. You
okay,
need to let your family know that those are your wishes. That's
yes,
very, very important. So after listening to this, if you decide, you know what, I heard them, I want to be able to possibly live on if something, God forbid, happens to me. I want to be able to save somebody's life. Check whatever you need to check on. I don't know what they're doing now down at the motor vehicle place, but say that you want to be an organ donor, but let your family know, the people that are the point people. Everybody has a point person. If something happens, God forbid, you have that one person that makes the decisions, whether it be your wife or your mother, whomever. Make sure they know your wishes, because ultimately, if it comes down to that, they will be the ones to say, I know this is what my loved one would have wanted, and I want to make sure that somebody else's life is saved in the event of. So, donate, 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 and save a life. I am here, healthy, happy, alive, because my best friend donated one of his kidneys and he saved my life. So I'm very grateful, and I just really appreciate you allowing me to come on.
And I appreciate you coming on. So I will see you on Instagram.
Absolutely.
I'll talk to you. And again, thank you so much. And you have a wonderful evening. Ladies and gentlemen, the phenomenal Olivia Fox. Thank you, Olivia.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. And you stay safe. Stay safe.
Definitely.
Put on that mask.
Yeah, I have no choice. My wife and my daughter, I better not go nowhere without it.
That's right, because we know.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I'll give y'all that. I can't argue. All right,
take care of yourself, okay?
All right, you too.
All right.
All right, bye-bye. Thank you for that super duper super chat, Keto. Thank you, everybody. To those on Facebook, I know that I'm still trying to get myself together. Oh, my brother's here. Thank you, brother. Thank you very much. Hey, Debbie, Tata, T-Rix, Keto Girl, Lily, G Fam. Somebody else is in here. Loretta, Miss Yvette, Egan. Hey, my pumpkin, Tanisha. What's up, Button? I spoke to Loretta. Linda. Hey, Katrina. I thank you all so much. I appreciate you all coming in and spending time. I hope that we all learned something. That's why I've come up with this show, and that moment right there. Like I said, I was telling Aunt Maddie that this was a big one for me. It was, and so I thank you all for your support. I thank y'all for coming through. I will see you all next Tuesday. My guest will be Earl Hawkins, and so as time goes by, I'll let you know about him, and he'll share his story. So until then, I will be going live on Thursday. I don't know what I'll be talking about. Probably just rehashing stuff, and maybe it'd be story time or something. But I want to thank everybody for coming through. I appreciate and love y'all dearly. And until I see you all again, remember to be happy on purpose and know that I believe in you too. Good night, everybody.